as far as the parliamentary probe that they would want to hold into the collapse of the bank is concerned. A few decisions have been arrived on. The probe will begin on the 5th of September. It will run up until the 7th of September. It will be an in-camera sitting, but before and after each of the meetings, the committee would brief the press and ordinary members of the public. Dr. Marcus Biaboa has been explaining the processes as far as this investigation is concerned.
We are now going to write to the Bank of Ghana. That's why we have given ourselves 3 weeks to ask for documentation. And then we'll meet again here on the 30th of August to peruse those documents. And if there are any gaps, we'll ask for more. So we need documentation to form our opinions on what to do. So primarily there's going to be hearings and the dates have been agreed upon. But today we are writing to the bank to ask for all the documents that you people have been feeding on in the media. We cannot work without official documentation. So that's where we are.
Well, his colleague on the Finance Committee, Ofori-Atta, who is the minority spokesperson on finance, well, has a contrary view on who exactly will be appearing before the committee.
At that point, let me assure you, they have not asked Parliament to approve the use of 8 billion public fund. So who is breaching the law? The Finance Ministry today is breaching the law. Yes, the Finance Ministry has failed to request Parliament to approve 8 billion. They have failed to ask Parliament of Ghana for the permission to spend taxpayers' money of 450 million to consolidate, to capitalize the consolidated bank. The consolidated bank requires an act of Parliament for it to be in place. They have not done that. So all of these are fundamental breaches, you see, that we've raised concerns.
A member of the Finance Committee, Daniel Achimabwaje, says this collapse is not something that should be politicized when it comes to the banks, but he thinks former President John Mahama deserves to take the blame for what has happened.
If you dive into it, then the politics may have played a part in it. So if our friends in the opposition want us to do it or talk about collapse of banks and that maybe the current government is killing banks, it's not true. It is only when you put a timeline to the happening of events that you will know that it really, ultimately, the president at that time has to be held responsible.
President John Mahama should be held responsible for
exactly so. Exactly so. But for me, these are all part of his legacies. The legacies is just like basically proposing a policy that cost Ghana about 8 billion. It's only for Akufo-Addo to come and implement. That is wrong. You know, that should be blamed. He should be blamed. And of course, this is all part of the things Akufo-Addo government said. Let's come in, let's open it up, let's stop the bleeding, wherever it's coming from. And of course, don't forget, part of the reason why these banks collapse is because when you take or give contracts and you don't pay, ultimately hit the bank's bottom line, it affects their capital, it declines, and they cannot meet the requirement. It's called non-performing loans.
Ofori-Atta disagrees and insists the former administration should not be held responsible for this particular collapse.
The governance structure of the central bank is very peculiar because of the independence. And so it would be very reckless on the part of anybody to go around and start blaming the former president. It is very wrong and we shouldn't go that line.
Well, once the committee is done with their probe, they are expected to make recommendations on what the way forward should be and how to avoid any possible collapse of a bank in future. From Parliament House in Accra, my name is Joseph Opoku-Gakpo.